everybody, and welcome to Mary G Live, or Mary Giuliani Live, actually. I'm so thrilled you're here today. The whole point of this show is to really create a space for you to transform in. And so every single week I have different guests that I bring on, and we have a fun chat about whatever they're really passionate about or whatever they're up to. And I always like to also find out some of the struggles that they've had in their lives as well, because that's what makes us all realize that we can do the same thing. And that's what got me on my path as well. So if you're watching the show from Facebook Live, please do us a huge favor and go ahead and share the show while it's live on your stream. Tonight we've got Kathleen Ronald, who's an amazing business growth expert, speaker, as well as a clearing clutter expert. So we're going to have her on, and she's going to talk about her Clutternomics program. Also, a couple more announcements, then we'll bring Kathleen on. You can ask Kathleen questions during this show. So she's a great resource for ideas about how to clear clutter or what different types of clutter means. So all you have to do to ask questions is you go up to marygiuliani.net, watch live. So if you're on Facebook, you need to come over to my website to the Watch Live tab, because that's where the actual chat is that I accept questions from. So if you're not going to ask questions, feel free to hang out on Facebook. But if you want to find out what's going on in the chat room, there's always some interesting people in there. And actually, you can talk to each other during the show, too. I shouldn't probably say that, but whatever. Anyway, also, if you're wanting to know the different guests that are coming up on the show, make sure you get on my email list. I just send out one email once a week, and basically it's just sharing who the guests are for the week, and also links to previous recordings. I provide an audio and a video link. In fact, last week I was the person in the hot seat getting interviewed by my BFF, Carrie, from Washington. And so I share my story of all the challenges that I've gone through, as well as all the breakthroughs and victories and that sort of thing, too. So if you want to check out the interview of me and my story, go to my website, marygiuliani.net, then go to Talk Show Archives. Let's see, is there anything else I wanted to mention? Also, if you would like to ask me any questions, feel free to email me at mary@marygiuliani.net, because I want to provide like a section of the show where I answer a viewer's question every week, too. And one last thing before we bring on Kathleen. We're always looking for new inspirational guests that could really support you guys in transforming and going for it in your lives. So make sure if you have someone you know or you yourself feel like you'd be a good guest for this show, please email me at mary@marygiuliani.net. We're looking for women that are really going for it in their lives and that are willing to share their story and that have either written a book or that are involved in some type of a program that they're reaching a lot of people. And so that's what we're up to. Let's see. Just so you know, this interview tonight, I'm going to be interviewing Kathleen Ronald, and she has this wonderful program called Clutternomics, which is all about clearing clutter to increase your well-being, your love life, and your actual prosperity. So it's an incredible program. And it feels good to get stuff out of your space, too. But anyway, I have her PowerPoint deck loaded onto my video recording platform. And so I'm going to be able to actually share part of the deck as we go through it, and I'll be asking her questions based on what I'm going to be showing you guys, too. And so anyway, so just kind of give you a feel of what's going on. All right, so with that, as I said, Kathleen Ronald has been a business consultant, a speaker, expert in the field of clearing clutter for over 25 years now. She's the founder of several different women's networking organizations, and is a super fun and just a wonderful person. Very, very knowledgeable. Has worked with Fortune 500 companies as well as just individual solopreneurs. So let's bring on Kathleen and say, hi. Hey Kathleen, we're so glad you're here.
Hi,
Yay.
Mary, thanks for having me. Wow, what a setup. Look at you, girl.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. It's great to be here.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for being part of the show tonight, and I was just thinking of how I met you, and it was through Catherine Gray. You know, and
Miss Catherine, the amazing Catherine Gray, 360 Karma, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was like I'd gone to her women's conference, and then she had that other seminar where you were one of the experts, and so I got to know you, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's just amazing when you put yourself in environments with women that are really going for it in their lives, how just all kinds of doors open. So thank you for showing up for what you love and for other women, and you know, for being here. So, as I had mentioned before, I would show different slides of the Clutternomics deck. But before we get into that, I always just like to kind of get a feel for, like, how did you even get into business coaching, or just the whole field of consulting and speaking and all of the things that you're doing. So what was it that like really put you on?
Well, that's a two-part question. On the speaking side of the world, I started my business with this sweet little button that says, "I'm so excited, ask me why." You see it?
Yes.
And
yes,
I was in Mary Kay Cosmetics, and there was a goal to get to Dallas. And so, God forbid, I actually sold the Mary Kay product to get there. I created a pink and burgundy button that said, "I'm so excited, ask me why," 30 years ago. Carol Anton was my director, and she was kind enough to give me 10 minutes in the meeting, and the buttons were sold at $1.25 a piece, but if they bought a packet of 10, they got them for $1 a piece. And so I sold like 340 buttons in 10 minutes. I mean, I did my little talk, sold my buttons, and I had the airfare to go to Dallas to the big Mary Kay convention. I had 1,000 buttons, and I thought, what am I going to do with these stupid buttons? So I took all the buttons with me to Dallas. There was 8,000 women there, and I pinned the buttons entirely over my entire blazer in pink and burgundy. So you can imagine walking around with that marketing tool, what happened. And I ended up selling 2,000 more buttons than I brought. So I might as well have made 25,000 that weekend back in the day. That was 30 years ago. So I came home, and my little talk went from 10 minutes to an hour, and Shane McGinnity said, "Why don't you come to my meeting and do that little talk?" And I've been doing that little talk for the last 30 years, and people just kept saying, "Where'd you get that button? Where'd you get that button? Where'd you get that button?" And each person led me to a different company, and then I expanded and created 13 different marketing products of different buttons with different sayings, all to help people market their business. And the consulting thing kind of happened. I trained with Tony Robbins for 5 years, so I'm certified as a neuro-linguistic programmer, and what I call myself is a mind chiropractor. And so one of the gals that saw me speak came up to me and she said, "Do you coach?" And she was a vice president of human resources at a large company in Silicon Valley. And I'm like, well, I've been coaching for years, but I never charged for it. You know, I always thought God had my calendar. Whoever called, I would, you know, extend advice and coach. And and so she said, "I'd like to book a session with you." So I created a session, and she came. And back in the day, I mean, I gave her a year-long plan of everything that she would need. And she said, "I don't feel like I paid you enough." And I said, "Please don't tell anybody I do this."
Really? Why?
You know, well, because, you know, just it's a one-to-one rather than one-to-many. I mean, I really love it now. I mean, I love it, but at the time, I was only charging $125 an hour, and I was giving people way too much, basically. So I prepared for weeks for her meeting. Now it's a much different model, and I've streamlined it, and I've decluttered it, and, you know, I let the perfectionism go, and the AAA personality overachiever, that's all gone. And so it's very streamlined with my clients now, and it's just a different model. So anyway, I've been coaching ever since, and then the day I don't enjoy it is the day I'll stop. But I absolutely love supporting people to give birth to dreams that they might have lost otherwise, you know, for a myriad of reasons. So it's very exciting. I love it.
So then you are like you're like a coach, a consultant, a speaking training person, as well as you do a
Well, yes. So one side of the business, I work with solopreneurs and business owners, And that's the consulting side. But the life coaching, because if, let's say, an owner of a business is coming to me, and they can be from $1 million up to 10, 20 million, 30 million or more. So they have a personal side that we have to look at and make sure that everything's working. And then they have the business side. Because if their personal side is out of alignment, everything will crash. There's not a good foundation. So that's kind of a starting place where we get them in alignment and healthy, and then we look at the business part of it. So that's kind of the life coach / business consultant. So truly people come to me that want to grow their business 20 to 50% is a lot of my business. And then I work with a lot of people that want to become speakers, because I have been a speaker for 30 years. So I do keynotes. I do 1 to 3 hour trainings for companies. I do executive offsites, team building, things of this nature. Keynotes, did I say that? Yeah.
You did.
So that's kind of my business model, is I stand up and I speak and I share edutainment, if you will, strategies. I'm all about strategies. You're going to have a good time when you're with me.
Yeah, it's edutainment.
Edutainment, yeah. Yeah, so I like to share and laugh at the same time, and really give people, you'll feel good, but more importantly, you'll walk away with some solid strategies that you can implement easily and effortlessly, you know, straight away. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? That's exactly what I did when I did your Clutternomics program. I went home that exact same day and cleared out 2 of my areas, and it was like, thank you, Kathleen. This is like, and then I have a thing plugged into my calendar, like, to maintain my clutter clearing. And so it's like you've given me a whole new sort of structure. So as far as, like, just curious, when you were growing up, was there a lot of disorganization, or I'm just curious, like, what got you into the clutter world?
Actually, you know, this is the way this topic was born. You know, as a strategist, I've taught many topics. I did customer service training for 20 years. I do networking, follow-up. I've done self-esteem. You know, over the years, many topics. But this particular one is one that the results are so immediate. Like, people don't want to spend years getting good at customer service, because there's many components to really excel in customer service. People don't want to take the time to get really proficient at follow-up, because there's many layers to follow up. But boy, people will clean something out and see instant abundance, and I love the topic because the results are so immediate and people get on board. They
are. Yeah, there's like a natural high or something about what is why is it there's such a natural high when you purge stuff?
Well, let me go back to growing up. So I grew up in a family of 6 children in Aberdeen, Washington, and no, there wasn't clutter. No, if my father had his way, there would be a toothbrush, you know, a shaving cream, and some toilet paper. You know, he was on the shy side. Like, when he retired, the first week he retired, my mom, God bless her soul, he looked in the freezer and he saw all this food, and he's like, "Bunny, we need to get in that freezer. We need to go through. We need to see what we have. Let's make a list. Let's alphabetize that list and put it on the outside of the freezer, and let's not buy anything until that food is gone or we need it." And then she called me and she goes, "Your father's going to kill me. He's only been off work for a week in retirement." Sadly, she died the next week. Now, certainly that wasn't because of my father being retired. She had a stroke and transitioned, but no, we didn't have a lot of clutter in our house growing up, and it was everything was clean, and my father was in the Army, and we all had our jobs, and the house was swept and kept and in order before we went off to school. So it was because I was living in Los Gatos, California, and I had a little 1-bedroom apartment. I lived there for 13 years in my little tree house, and I ran across Karen Kingston's book, Clearing Your Clutter with Feng Shui, and I never knew that that book would change my life the way it has, and tens of thousands of people that I have shared it with over the last 25 plus years.
Wow, amazing.
So it just, you know, I was doing a teleclass, and it was 3 parts. It was a 3-week teleclass, and I did, it was called the Accelerated Business Method. I did a class on 5 keys to evict negative thinking. I did the space clearing call, and then I did a self-esteem call, because I think those are the fundamentals, you know, for a foundation if you're, you know, in this world, whether you're in business or not. And I started asking people, why did you choose that particular teleclass with those offerings? And the majority of people would say, I chose that class because of the space clearing call. And so I went, wow. So really it was the audience that expanded this, because then I did a boot camp for 5 years, and I took people through a year long with 9 guest experts, and we covered a variety of different areas of life. So that's kind of how it all evolved into what it is today.
Yeah, it sounds like it's like just people just saying this is what we really want. So
yes.
You know what? I'm just gonna, if you don't,
who do you know that's not dealing with some kind of clutter, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, just from just a bigger sort of picture, I mean, the whole sort of consumer-driven culture that we live in, you know, is all focused on helping us to feel bad about ourselves, so we'll buy things to resolve our problems. And then, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's called, you know, that's emotional spending. You know, it's like, I always ask my clients or audiences, you know, do you ever stop to think why you're buying? Why are you buying? I mean, because there's a myriad of reasons why people buy, but if it's beyond need, like, why are you buying? Like now, my audience, I'm like, truly, I ask them, if you think about it and you look around your home, and certainly people of a certain age, you know, if you're younger, you need stuff. Right? When you're just starting out. But if you're in your, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond, pretty much many of us have what we need. And every audience I ask now, because it's a new question, I said, is there anything that you need besides basic life necessities? Is there anything you really need to buy? And they're all like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, okay. Let's invest that money, shall we? Let's watch it grow.
Yeah. Well, let's cut to just one of the slides in your deck, just so people can kind of get it. And please talk over the slide, because people can hear it too.
Sure.
So there's the definition of clutter. So
yeah, this is the definition of clutter, and this is from Karen Kingston's book. I asked you, not only physical clutter. What about mental clutter, limiting beliefs? There's body clutter, there's emotional clutter, there's calendar clutter, there's two-legged clutter. There's, you know, that's people that you want to bless and release and let them prosper elsewhere. You know, so I've taken it to encompass much more than physical clutter, but basically the message is whatever is in your way, you need to look at it to release it so you can live in real ease. Right. You know, it's really, that's okay. So I'm always just asking the question, you know, in business, what are your issues and challenges? That's clutter. That's business clutter. Interruptions in a business setting is clutter. Email, clutter. Too many meetings, you know, clutter. Poorly run meetings, clutter. Wrong staff, you know, two-legged clutter.
Well,
it just is,
it's amazing. I mean, it just like, you know, back in 20, 30 years ago, clutter was just seen as physical stuff, and just in the past 5 or 10 years, it feels like a lot of people like you and some other people I've heard discuss the topic are really including a lot of different areas. In fact, when I was getting my coaches training, one of the things they used to talk to us about was helping clients overcome their tolerations, which is clutter. You know, like, what are you tolerating in your life? And so it's
So basically, any issue or challenge that doesn't serve you is considered clutter in my world.
Right. And I'm just curious, like, how would what were those things called in the past besides clutter? Just challenges, problems.
Challenges. Yes.
But
you know, there's a myriad of adjectives. But at the end of the day, what's in your way? You know, if you really, what's in your way? So my job is to get clear about what's in your way, and then specifically, how do we remove it, release it, let it go, whether it's emotional, if it's a limiting belief, if it's whatever that is. If we can move it, you can move forward. And, you know, it's interesting. I have a client who's 72 years old, and he didn't want to die with a screenplay inside, and he's wanted to do this screenplay for 40 years. So it's kind of like, what prevents you from doing it? So he had a list of belief systems of why he couldn't do it, and then he had all these physical things of why he couldn't do it. And then we just, one at a time, we just removed it, and now the screenplay is almost done. And it was well received, and he's hoping that there's a bidding war, and now he doesn't have to die with this screenplay inside of him. So that's what we did with him.
Well, you know what's so amazing about this, Kathleen, is that's why I started this show. I didn't want to die with my talk show in me.
God bless you.
I didn't want to
you know what? It takes a lot of grit to do what you do. I mean, the time and dedication and intention and all the research you had to do to get it all set up. And for many of us, it's only a conversation. And it's kind of like, oh gosh, I have a client that it was 10 years waiting to do this, 5 years, 8 years, 7 years. And we just looked at these different goals, and within 30 days, all of these things that have just been sitting on the shelf were activated.
Wow.
So congratulations to you for doing your self-reflection and removing those obstacles, because there's obstacles and challenges and many stairs to climb in all that we do. I mean, even getting out of bed in the morning is a process for many of us.
Well, and you know, the thing that one of my biggest messages to the world is really that you really can create a life that you truly love with the right, consistent support. And so, you know, hiring someone like you is so key, because, like for me, for example, I hired several people to help me get this thing going, because on my own I couldn't do it. And I think that's well, I think there's so many different reasons why people don't pursue their goals, but many times they just don't really truly believe they have the ability to do it, and it's because they haven't been informed of what's possible.
The limiting belief clutter is really big. You know, people's own self-limitations, their limiting conversations, their belief systems about themselves. It's just amazing. The mind is such a vast, complicated machine, and there's just a lot of BS in there and a lot of stories that, you know, we get when we're kids, and we take them with us throughout our lives. And, you know, it's amazing.
Well, you know what? Why don't we go to the deck where it says Opportunity Zones Action Plan, because that's where you talk about, like, the 80-20 focus. Could you share a little bit more about?
Yeah, so if everybody, you know, if you want to go back to the action plan, we can kind of just back up, and then I'll just tell you to forward. If you want to go back to the opportunity zones, we'll start there. You know, I used to call these clearing zones, you know, like clutter zones, but truly, people, you know, the majority of people that I work with, they resent their clutter. They hate it. It makes them tired, lethargic. They don't feel free. They feel stuffed. They feel overwhelmed, stressed out. I mean, just you name a negative adjective, and they feel that way. And so the first thing they need to do is clear that thinking and look at their clutter as a healing opportunity, because it's really their best friend. It is amazing what people learn once they flip that perception and they no longer push against, because whatever you resist persists, you know, really whatever you push against expands. So you want to bring that in, you want to love and yum up that clutter and go, ooh, thank you, because there's so many lessons in this. What am I going to learn?
Okay, so,
what am I going to learn?
First,
it's a healing opportunity.
So then that's a great, I mean, that's a really key piece that I think a lot of people think automatically they have shame about their clutter, or, you know, I should have taken care of that 5 years ago or 20 years ago.
Or they're embarrassed, or they feel like a crappy mom because the baby book's been sitting there for 20 years and it never got done.
Right.
Yeah, they had clothes in their closet when they were in high school, and now they're maybe an 18 or a 20, but they're still living wanting to be a size 9, so every time they open up the closet, they feel like crap, you know, on a subconscious level.
I remember those different sizes, yeah.
You know, and then the trickery of the mind, well, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to keep it just in case.
Right.
Just in case.
Right.
This year is going to be the year, right? And the years go by, and so I changed it to opportunity zones, because every zone, like let's say a living room is a zone, a bedroom's a zone, a kitchen's a zone, your car's a zone, your office is a zone. And then within those zones, and they're opportunity zones, because there's so much opportunity for abundance and freedom and less stress and opportunity and flow, and oh my gosh, it's just so much goodness. So I have people just start off and make a plan. So Mary, what zones do you currently have that you would like to address?
I would say for the clutter clearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you're thinking about your home.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say the garage.
Garage.
And the business files.
And then you're filing. Okay. Now, 80% of all people in America cannot park their car in their garage. They think it's a storage unit, but it's not.
Yeah.
So garage, within your garage, you could break that into subzones, right?
Okay.
So you just, like, this quarter of a wall is a zone, middle wall, this is a, you know, whatever your zones are, and I call those subzones. So people can start small, because the reason you might not have been in your garage and it's needing attention is because you don't see it, you're not in it, and it's so big and overwhelming that you would rather have a root canal than go clear out the garage.
Right.
Right? So if you chunk it down, and I always say hire somebody, you can go to National Association of Professional Organizers. It's NAPO, N-A-P-O, National Association of Professional Organizers. Phenomenal group, North American-wide, just extraordinary. If you have the means, hire someone, get them over there to clear that, because the abundance will be rolling in like you won't even be, it's just like Christmas or the holidays or your birthday every day. It's so exciting.
I love that.
So you do that. So you have your opportunity zones, and then you sub them, you make them smaller, and then I always ask my clients, just do an hour a week just to get started, or 15 minutes a day.
Right.
People get started, and then they kind of don't stop, and then I have to coach them because they'd rather clear than do anything else. Because all the emotions and the rewards are many. And I see that you have Think 80-20, you know, truly. Think about it, Mary. You wear 20% of your wardrobe. Would you agree?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Do you wear 20% of your jewelry?
Oh, God, probably more like 2.
2%. Okay.
Yeah.
What about all that kitchenware? You know, I don't spend much time in the kitchen because I've done like 5 meals to date and 3 came out of a can, so you really can't call it cooking. However, so I don't have a lot of kitchen gadgets. You know, I have the basics. And but so many kitchens are just packed with gadgets.
Right.
And what about your CDs, if you still have CDs? Millennials, you know, they would laugh at that conversation. But I've walked into many people of my generation, and we have 300, 400, 600 CDs. Well, I just got rid of most of all mine. I have maybe 10% left that I'm going to upload to my computer, and then they'll be gone. The DVDs, I used to have a ton of DVDs just in case company would come over. So now we have Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, and my God, if you have that, why would you need a DVD? So then I gave away all my DVDs. I'm like, that's kind of ridiculous. Why do I have DVDs?
So that's this ask, do you love it or do I need it, right?
Yeah, so when you go into your little subzone, these are basic questions. Now, as a mind chiropractor, there are many questions that I need to ask when I'm working with somebody, because people, depending on how far they are to the hoarder scale, and that's above my pay grade, I send everybody to experts like Dr. Regina Lark is a hoarding expert, and she'll work with them because that's a true disease. But if you have basic needs, these are just basic questions. You know, do I love it? Do you love it? And you know what? Are you currently using it? You know, I would change that question. Do you need it? I've changed that question out. You got the old deck. Because if you say you need it, you're going to create a story of why you need it. But a better question is, are you currently using it?
And when you say currently, what do you mean by that then? Like in the last month?
I'm saying, do you use it every week? Do you use it once a month? Are you using it? Or does it come out once every 5 years? Like, why is it taking up space in your house? Because anytime something is taking up space, the universe abhors a vacuum. If you want something new to come in, it's a law. You must open up the space, period, end of statement. It works every time, like the law of gravity. I don't know why it works, just test it, it works. The universe abhors a vacuum. You open up a space, something must come in. Every time. Guaranteed. That's why it's so addicting. That's why it's so much fun. You're like, wow, what's coming in now?
Yeah,
so you have to decide with all that stuff. And if you look around your house, and let's say the cupboards are packed, the bookshelves are packed, the closets are packed, the drawers are packed, you've essentially had a conversation with the universe that you have everything you need and you need nothing else. It's kind of like your phone, Mary. Think about this. When your voicemail is full, can you get any more messages?
Nope. That's a really good point.
You have to clear them out for new messages to come in, correct?
Absolutely.
Same thing with your stuff. If you've got emotional clutter, until you clear it, how can you expand into new horizons?
Right.
If you're dealing with the same-o, right? And stuff. So my friend Deb Lindegren gave me that metaphor, you know, as on the phone, and I thought it was just right on, because it really speaks volumes. You can't have anything new until you clear out that voicemail, and it happens with everything else.
Well, and, you know, then it requires you to get clear about what is really valuable to you. And so how do you help people with that?
Well, you know, I think it's a process, and I think they find out for themselves. You know, it's part of their learning process, and everybody is different. You know, people go deep with this, and they have no idea. Like one gal that was in my teleclass, she said, you know, Kathleen, she goes, after your call, I started to reflect. My auntie left me a house, and part of it was good, but part of it was a burden. And I thought I had to keep the house to keep the memory of my aunt. And she found that she didn't. So she wrote me a long letter, and she said, thank you for giving me, you know, this insight to release me from this burden. And it's, people come to it on their own. I always say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And when you're ready, you're ready. But it's, everyone comes up with their own inspiration and their own knowing and their own learning. And it's very, it's just when they're ready, when the lesson's ready to be seen, they get to see it and they get to feel it. And many times, you know, people that are in their 50s or 60s or 70, you know, we spend a lifetime accumulating only to end up in a room at an assistant nursing center with a bed and a dresser and a few clothes and a few pairs of shoes. And it's kind of like, well, what expense? What did you miss in your life while you were accumulating?
That's
you know,
really
some people work 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day. They don't see their friends. They don't have their health. Their children don't know who they are. They have broken relationships. And so it's kind of like it's upside down. It's like we don't pay attention to what really matters in life until maybe we're faced with cancer or a death sentence, or we're given a year to live, and then all of a sudden lights come on and go, wow. So that's what this is really about. It's really getting back to the basics and what's important in life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's not accumulating stuff. Not for me.
Yeah. I mean, it almost feels like that the culture has kind of gone from like a survival mode in like autopilot and like almost like we don't need to be in survival mode anymore, everybody. You know what I mean?
You know, it's so interesting.
It's like you can
do you know who Tom Shadyac is?
Yes. Didn't he produce
Tom
some Jim Carrey
Shadyac
movies?
Yes, he did, you know, Patch
Adams
and Ace Ventura, and he has the most remarkable video that I have all my clients watch. It's called I Am.
Yes,
and
I've seen it.
It's Tom Shadyac, and he puts in a movie what I try to do in my work. And he's an advocate, you know. He walked into his big mansion and he said it struck him, this eerie feeling when it was all done. He said he wasn't this much happier, not even in. He said, I thought I had reached what society deemed as success and had everything from the house to the cars to the planes to the truck, everything. And then he was in an accident and he had a concussion. And it was a couple months, and he said, you know, if I was going to give one more message to the world, what would it be? And it was this movie called I Am. And he literally downsized everything, got rid of everything. He lives in a beautiful mobile home. It's like a 4-quad. It's in Malibu. It's magnificent. But he also likens it to nature. He said, you know, if we observe nature, nature never takes more than she needs. Never. And
that's
so
a really good point.
It's kind of like that. It's like, get what you need. Get what you need.
Yeah.
But why do you have to have excess of so much? You know, I mean, look at our world, you know, with the separation of wealth and these, you know, there's such a huge divide in our world of the haves and the have-nots. And it's just fascinating. And it's all, you know, it's marketing and it's status, and you know, there's many reasons why we buy.
Many layers.
Many layers, but it's a great movie.
The viewers can get some sort of action steps they can take away.
Yes.
Let me see, where are we here? I'm going to go, so we're at the Opportunity Zones action
So they've got their zones. They're going to pick the #1 zone this week that gives them the most pain, that causes them the most stress, and they're going to subzone it, and then they're just going to walk into that room and ask those questions. You know, I say empty out the drawer and ask, do I love it, and am I currently using it? If it gets a no, it goes. Like, let it go. And if it gets a yes, you get to keep it. And if it gets a yes, no, you get to keep it. Now, if everything in your house gets a yes, you need to call a professional, because it's most likely that you could be a hoarder.
Okay.
Because
and
people
I think
have
just like any other addiction. I mean, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just something that you can get for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I really refer these books to people. You know, Karen's book, The 80-20 Principle. I think everybody in the world should read that book. Richard Koch. It's an amazing book. And then block an hour a week, really easy. Focus on your number one zone. And those of you that have ADD or ADHD, listen, if you start in a zone and you have 3 different zones before your hour's up, that's okay. Just know, you know what I mean? Don't get discouraged because it's just your process.
Right.
And then interview and hire some support. Again, NAPO, National Association of Professional Organizers. And then just keep working. Just keep doing it. I mean,
yeah.
I had a gal that had, you know, she just did 15 minutes a day, and in 30 days she had a full book of business. I mean, it's just amazing what happens. It's just, I mean, I could fill an hour of just miracles that happen when you just begin to start releasing. I love it. One of my clients said, you know, Kathleen, the more I release, the more real ease I get to live in. And I go, you're absolutely right. And isn't that, I mean, if you look at it, Mary, what do we really need? We need more love and more hugs and more time with our friends and family, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, this whole concept, the whole purpose of clutter clearing is to have a better quality life. So, yeah, it's like, how can I...
And then also, you know, running a business, you know, you literally, I have a client that runs a $2 million business, and we designed it, and he only works 15, 20 hours a week. So it's kind of like designing your business. It can grow, but you design it in a way that it doesn't take over your life. You know, those are
kind of, I'm just curious,
strategies.
What kind of a business person is this? What kind of services do they do?
He has a design firm. He has a design firm.
Cool.
And we just built it so he could do that.
Wow.
He doesn't even live in the same state. We moved him to his perfect right location.
I love it.
So it's, you know, I mean, you can create whatever you want. I call it the Hat Man strategy. You know, I met a man in Hawaii, and I thought, you're the most brilliant businessman I know because you have a life that everybody else wants. And this is how he ran his life, Mary. I called him the Hat Man. I met him in Hawaii, and he was in this little condo cove, and he sat on the beach. His marketing tools was just a picture book of happy tourists in Hawaii wearing his hats.
Oh, my God.
Or buying a bull or a bird. His supplies, he went to nature to cut these long reeds every morning. He had one pen, and he would write your name on the bamboo leaf, and he goes, okay, what do you want? And you would say, I want a hat, and I want a bowl. Okay, that's $40 cash. He said he made about $4,000 to $6,000 a month. And then he had his beer chest, and then he had his little beach chair and a towel. That was his whole setup. No overhead. Nature gave him what he needed. He's on the beach working, right? Are you with me?
Oh, my God.
He's making $4,000 to $6,000 a month, and he said, Kathleen, I don't take any more orders until 1 o'clock. I work from 7 a.m. till 1 o'clock. Anything after that interrupts my time.
Oh, my God, I love it.
He's got his own hours. He's meeting people from around the world, and I'm like, you have a great job. Then I meet Hatman Dentist. Hatman Dentist is in Santa Monica. Now, he used to have a practice with 10 employees, 6 rooms going. He said, Kathleen, I would give people injections, and I'd get caught up in a room, and by the time I get to them, their Novocaine had worn out, and I'd have to re-inject them. He said, I downsized everything. He got rid of everything. He calls you. He books the appointment. He said, I make more money now working by myself than I did when I was managing this huge practice. I go to the beach. I surf. I work on my own terms. See, that's kind of what I love to create for people.
Yes.
Is like, what's your Hat Man status? Yeah.
So why did you call it Hat Man again?
Well, because the first guy that I met in Hawaii, Hat Man, you know, in Hawaii had this beautiful thing. And then I met Hat Man Dentist, you know, because he has the same philosophy as the guy in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And then I meet Hat Man Surfer Boy in Mexico, and he's got a beautiful life. And he literally is in this surfer cove, and all these tourists come up, and he just trains them in surfing all day, doesn't do any marketing. He's got swimsuits and surfboards and some wax. That's his whole business model. He's been able to spend a ton of time with his family, build a house, get married, and then you got Hat Man Photographer who sits there on the beach with a wide lens and he snaps all the happy tourists taking, you know, surfing lessons, and then sells the CDs right to the happy, snappy parents for $30, and he's banging out, you know, how many hundreds of dollars with all those little tourists buying his little CDs. And I thought, wow. You see, so we can take ideas and models from those people and add them into our own business, right?
Well,
like how can we create a Hat Man lifestyle? And that's why I call it Hat Man, because I've met people in a variety of professions that kind of use that Clutternomics model, you know, doing less with more.
Hat, was the hat because he sold the hat? The original one sold the hat?
He sold hats. He sold hats out of palm. Yeah.
Yes.
He made these beautiful hats out of palms.
I remember seeing somebody doing that in Hawaii. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they were like $30-40, and you know, he's as happy as a clam.
Well, and I
mean, come on, how many of us have that lifestyle? You know, we're all attached to computers 8 to 10 hours a day.
Well, and the thing is it's like learning. When we allow ourselves to buy into the current cultural sort of standards of living, then that's what's going to happen. But like when you really say to yourself, well, does my life have to look like a conventional life? And no, it doesn't. I mean, like for me, for example, I mean, I'm doing this talk show out of my home studio in the city of Orange in California, and it goes out to the whole world. It's not a conventional thing.
Yes.
And yet.
Yeah, it's so great. And they're so great. And I just heard about the bucket list family on Facebook. My friend follows them religiously. And it's just this young couple who sold everything and took their little kids. And then he developed an app for this little vacation family. It's the bucket list family. I think he sold it for $42 million or something to Snapchat. I'm not sure. But, you know, it's like, he sold everything, created something, and it's like, wow, what can I do? Like, it's like, wow, I can work 9 months on, take 3 months off. You know, there's many ways to do it.
Yes.
You can work 6 months. I met a guy that worked 6 months doing deep sea scuba diving, and then he drives taxi in Vegas for 6 months. I met a young married couple. They taught skiing for 6 months, and then they consulted at a company for the other 6 months. So they designed their life. You know, they cleared out all this stuff so they could design a life that they worked for them. So to your point, there's many ways to create it.
Well, I don't even remember the person's name, but he called himself a lifestyle redesigner. Which
a lifestyle redesigner. That's kind of what I do, I guess.
Yeah,
lifestyle redesigner. It's like, let's strip it down, let's clear the way, let's remove the clutter, emotional, physical, body, verbal, two-legged clutter, and let's get to what matters. Let's get going. Yeah.
Like, you've probably heard of Tim Ferriss, The 4-Hour Work Week.
Yes, of course. I love that book.
Well,
and you know, a lot of great strategies in that book. A lot of great strategies, you know, with the 80-20.
It speaks to exactly
who's your
what
top
we're talking
clients
about.
And you know, if I'm talking to somebody in promotional products, like I've had clients in the promotional products world, I said, well, do you want 300 clients or would you like 10 clients ordering $100,000?
Right. Right. Exactly.
You know, in real estate.
It's all about the questions that you ask. I mean, in fact, Tim Ferriss, I listened to his blog too, or podcast, and he was saying what he learned from some of the guys from the PayPal Mafia, the original, like Peter Thiel and, you know, Elon Musk and everything, was they would ask questions like, normally it would take, you know, between a year and 2 years to get to a certain goal, and he's like, how can we do it in 2 months? You know, I mean,
so
just
you ask a different question, you get a different answer, and the power of the question is really what I learned from Tony Robbins. Is like the power of the question. You know, how can I do this and actually enjoy it? That's a better question.
Well, and I think it just kind of exactly. It kind of brings it back to becoming the authority of our own lives, and you know, instead of feeling like we have to follow along some social convention. And I love that you're doing this work because it's so perfect for Well, especially in these times, where I was reading something about, like, the average millennial will have a job for like 3 years at the most, and I know for you and I, we're a similar age range, and a lot of, at least maybe my parents, but it wasn't unusual for parents in my time to work a job for 20 or 30 years. You know what I mean? And that's just
40,
not the way
50.
it is anymore. Yeah. And so it's like we have to get more fluid. We have to let go of clutter if we want to be able to operate in a nimble way through this new sort of culture that we're in, which is moving very fast. Does that make sense?
Very fast. Yep, very fast. Yeah, I can't get rid of the stuff fast enough, quite frankly. But that's just me. I would rather have adventure than stuff. I love people and I love adventure, and so that's where I would choose to, focus my energies is on adventure. Some people are not the adventurous type, so my lifestyle is not for everybody,
Right.
But certainly I know that people are drowning in this thing called clutter, whether it be physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, financial, two-legged
Right.
clutter, and so it's just
Well,
like, let it go. Let's let it go.
since we're almost out of time here, and I still need to do a couple of announcements before we end, how can people find out about how to handle their clutter? Like, what can they do with working with you, or what are other ways people can get a hold of you?
Well, they can go to my website, which is speaktacular.com. That's SPEAKTACULAR.com. And they can peruse that. So if they need to hire me for a convention or as a keynote or a trainer for their company, I'd be happy to do that. I also have teleclasses on Clutternomics. I have one launching at the end of May, and they run on Wednesday nights from 4:30 to 6 or Saturday mornings from 8:30 to 10. They're 3 weeks, and they're back-to-back Clutternomics, and I do courses every 3 months. And the topics sometimes change, but for the most part, because Clutternomics is such a big topic, and those classes are always full, I don't change them out very often. So those happen every quarter. And then if they're looking for a personal consultant, and they're guided, there's something about me that they're guided to check out, then we could have a discovery call, and they can certainly find me on the web and send me an email, and we can connect that way.
Well, very cool. What would you say is your ideal type of client who you work really well with?
Well, there's so many ranges, but I love people that are highly motivated, and they're authentic, and they can speak their truth, and they're open and honest, and they're really ready for a change. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they really, it's just, they're coachable. Some people are not coachable, right? So I work with a lot of different clients, but if they're looking to grow a business 20 to 50%, that's good. I don't work with very many engineers or accountants. A lot of my people are in sales and marketing. A lot of my clients are women-owned businesses. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, this has been awesome. One last thing I always like to ask my guests. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes.
What is the message that you're most passionate about that you want to get out there to the viewers tonight?
Well, I think we've just talked about it, but at the end of the day, if you want to live in real ease, then just get into releasing. Just let it go.
Yes.
Life is short, people. It's a nanosecond. It's like this much. And I think one of the worst emotions to have as you get older and you look back on your life is regret. Yes. I think that's like drinking acid on a daily basis. And the older you get, the more regrets that you possibly could have. And so it's just less is more. Less is more. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Kathleen, so much. This has been so amazing, and I want to encourage everybody at home to go visit Kathleen's website, sign up for her class. I mean, it really is an amazing thing to get going on and have as a regular structure that you make sure that you handle, because it's just like brushing your teeth. If you've got to keep it going to make it really work. So
it's
again,
a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
It is a lifestyle. Okay, Kathleen. Well, thank you so much, and
thank you, Mary. God bless you and all that you're doing. I really appreciate you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Kathleen Ronald. That was awesome. I'm like so thrilled that she was here, did a great job, and clutter is it really is like just energy that's stuck, and so it makes complete sense that the more you would clear it on a like a physical level, or even people that are in your life, or whatever it might be, it's just basically handling your stuff. And I know that sounds sort of flip, but it really is about facing whatever's working and not working in your life. So thank God we have someone like Kathleen to help us with that. Okay, so I do a coaching tip every week, and since tonight the subject was clearing clutter, it makes total sense to me for us to have a coaching tip around clearing clutter. So please take a moment right now to determine what your clutter zone is that you are ready to take on. Like for me, I said my garage, and also I said business files. And so what I am willing to do today, well, not today, but tomorrow, since it's already in the evening, I'm willing to do 1/4 of my garage. So that's my subzone. And so my challenge to you is to choose one area, whether it's a room or a section of your house, and make a commitment, put it on your calendar so you know you'll do it. That has to live somewhere. You have to keep that focus alive. So that's your coaching tip for today. Also, I have a couple of announcements about my particular coaching, as well as my live stream remote video production services. I'm so excited that I can offer people that would like to have your own live stream show, whether it's a webinar or whether it's an actual talk show like this one, or even doing any type of promotional thing or music or whatever you can film or video, I can help you with. And I don't even have to be in your office. You don't have to be in my office. I can do it all remotely. It would be like I was doing Kathleen's interview, and if I never was on the screen at all. It's just sort of the same principles, that I can bring in guests for you. I can bring in PowerPoint productions. I can bring in live website browsers, all kinds of fun things. So let me know if you're interested in that. Just go up to my website and go to the host your own live stream show. And also, I am a regular old life coach, which is all about empowering you or inspiring you to be true to yourself. It's like, as Kathleen and we were talking about, it's like this is this one life, at least in this body, that if we're going to really go for it and create what we want, we're going to need support. And so being able to really step outside of your comfort zone, be in an environment where you're supported and going for it and really taking your life to the next level of doing something more fulfilling with more meaning, it takes support. So I am here to support you in that. And it's amazing what happens. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't even be here talking to you today if I hadn't gotten the support I needed. So if you're interested in any coaching, I'd be glad to do a call with you just to kind of get a feel for my style and what your needs are. My phone number, or actually just go to my website above and go to the coaching section. Okay, so next week we have, my guest is Sherry Gaba, who is the editor of Recovery Today magazine, which is all about helping people be inspired to stay clean and sober. And she's also an LCSW, which is a counselor, and has written the book called The Law of Sobriety, which is like combining the law of attraction with the 12 steps. So it's a very unique approach, and I'm excited to talk to her about that. And of course, the last thing I always say is, okay, now it's time for you to choose one thing that you can do starting tomorrow where you can be more true to yourself, and write it on your calendar and take that step, because that's what's going to be the main thing that transforms your life. So I'll see you tomorrow or next week. Bye, everybody.